So welcome everybody to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. And today is Friday, July the 21st, 2023. And their call-in number is 563-999-3581 and press 1. And that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we would love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And we'll give Michael a moment to get dialed in, and I'll just welcome everybody and thank you for being with us. We've got several people in the chat room and on the switchboard. And so if you have a question, then press. And Audrey, I hope you got my response the other day on you having a challenge to get into, to get into the radio shows and to be able to fast forward. And so I hope you got that response. I'm going to turn your microphone on. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Jeanie. This is Audrey.
Yeah, did you get my email and hear the response of how to fast forward through a radio show?
Yes, and thank you very much.
You are welcome and deserving, as Dr. Tim would say.
Thank you. Thank you for the response, and I appreciate it. I followed the directions, and it works. Thank you.
Good. Good. Well,
Sweet.
I'm glad. Welcome, Michael.
We're delighted to be on your team, young lady, and glad to have you on ours.
Yeah, this morning I was talking with Dr. Tim, and I was in a negative spin. I was in the illusion of separation, and then he worked with me, and I got to the point of the worksheet where, because I was spinning about the soil and humanity and the earth, and I was into a negative spin, I got to the point where I had these hidden parts of myself that God is punishing us, humanity, for polluting the earth. And this is our punishing. This is our punishment. And I am amazed at an emotional level how these deep-rooted tapes are working in the background for me. And I'm going, oh no, I'm back to go again. I thought I worked through this. Apparently, I just keep working now to dismantle those erroneous thoughts which have come an erroneous belief system. And I thank both of you for the work.
Delighted and honored. Was there much punishment in your childhood or threat of punishment?
Very much, a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
And in my mother's background, she was born in 1914, and
right.
Her biological mother passed away, and she went into a, what is that called with the nuns? Not a monastery.
A convent?
Well,
convent?
Convent, yes, thank you. See how the thought just, the neurons synapse, and I can't get to the words, in the convent. And she didn't tell me much, but she told me that they used to take the children to an area where there were old bones and expose the children to that. And then when you were talking on air about, in what was it, Israel, Gehenna, and I'm saying, oh my goodness.
A fiery place.
Yep. Yeah. And so that was her belief system, conditioned in her life experience, And because she was doing the best she knew how to do, it came through her to me. And all this is becoming clearer and clearer.
Nice catch. That's such an important piece of work. You know, this whole idea of God being a punisher is such a projection. There is no such thing as the big punisher in the sky. What people have called the big punisher in the sky is love, and what crept into men and women's minds were their own punishment, their own projection of punishment, and so they had to make up a punisher. And it became the creator. The beauty is that when we understand it, the presence of love that is the creative force within us is always available to dissolve everything that never belonged. I think it was St. Augustine that said we are punished by our sins, not for our sins. When we engage in, recognizing the Aramaic word sin as an archery term that means off the mark, when we engage in energy that's off the mark, wherever we store that energy in our structure, not God is offended, our structure is offended. God can't take offense. It's not part of love's nature to have anything to do with offense, but we offend our own structure, and that energy that's off the mark, stored in tissue, starts to destroy the tissue. And all punishment is self-punishment. We're doing this to ourselves, and of course, as you've discovered, it's just another thing to be forgiven. So I want to acknowledge you for the insight in seeing that. There's a great line in the Course in Miracles that says, millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do. And by just the energy of bringing that insight into your mind, your life, your family system, literally impacts the whole world. And we can verify that if you do a little reading about patents. There are, and this to me is just a way to verify the fact that when an energy enters the world, it enters the whole world. But there are certain patents that are unique, unthought of, unheard of things for humanity. And what the record shows is that, let's say it was January 30th, 1942. And this is just an example. I'm just making this up. It's not literal, but it is a literal truth. On a given date, people in 2 or 3 or 4 different countries patented the exact same new idea the same day.
Yeah.
When an energy enters the universe, so that, when people think, well, I'm just off here alone doing this for myself, by myself, the truth is when we open to bring a new level, a new insight, a new piece of the experience of love into our physiology, we implant it for all the world. So thank you for doing that piece of work. It's awesome. And it opens the space for the healing of all of us.
Thank you for exposing me to the worksheet. And now that I'm gaining clarity on how exactly to do the worksheet, I'm doing my inner work, and it works.
Michael, I can hear you talking through the wall, but I think you're muted.
Oh, I did hit my mute button. I was just going to say that I'm just checking to see if I've gotten it yet. But yesterday, our Course in Miracles session, it went for about 4 hours, and it was really powerful. I don't have the video yet, but when we do get it, we'll announce it on the show, and you might find it really worth watching. What we did, it was almost a 4-hour session, and there's, we've got a number of DVDs. One of the ways we support this work is by the sale of DVDs. And we played one of the DVDs yesterday, so now it's out there free for anybody that wants to see it. It's a 2-hour video, What is the World, from the Course in Miracles. And as I listened to it yesterday, I was amazed. It was a video we created about 6 years ago, and I was amazed at how well it came together. I hadn't watched it since it was originally created. And now, anybody is welcome to watch it. It'll be up on our YouTube channel as soon as we get it back. But it was part of the Hear My Voice book club yesterday, and we just had an awesome session. A lot of really good questions, and the way it all came together. At one point, I was in tears. It was just so the way the energy came together of the whole group was so overwhelming. It was overwhelming in a sweet way. So keep listening, and when that video is available, we'll make sure to get it posted. And I think it'll give you another level of insight into what you're doing.
And Michael, when it is announced, can you just announce how I access it? Because I'm going to be 82 years old, and my computer skills are increasing, but I'm so at a basic level. And just
we'll email you a link.
Simply. Thanks. I appreciate it.
I'll make sure we email you a link, so you just click it in the email and you'll be able to watch it. And it'll be in the notes. Jeanie will put it in the notes for the day too.
Thank you. Blessings.
Cool. Thank you. We appreciate you. Any other thoughts at this point?
Not at this point, but thank you for being part of my field of awareness. And I'm so thankful for Jeanie, how she got back to me and explained something so simple as click here, and I did, and it worked to navigate through the replay of the archive. Thank you.
All right, young lady. You have a blessed one. We appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, at the end of yesterday's show, you had told people to pick 2 numbers, and you were going to give them a mind shifter.
That's right.
If anybody that is listening picked 2 numbers, then let us know what your 2 numbers are, and we'll give you your mind shifter. The first number was 1, 2, or 3. The second mind shifter was from 1 to 13.
So if you want to pick 2 numbers, first one that comes to your mind from 1 to 3, and then a second number, write the 2 numbers down from 1 to 13, what pops in your head. This is a system that I've used for over 4 decades on helping people to pick mind shifters, rather than me trying to figure out with my brain what you should work on, or you trying to figure out with your brain what you should work on. Pick those 2 numbers, and the guidance is always on track. In an intensive, it gets to be very funny. It's actually quite hilarious, because people have been together, let's say they've been together maybe 4, 5, 6 days, and we pick mind shifters. And then as each one's mind shifter is read out, it's just, oh my God, you were talking about that yesterday. Oh, that's what we were processing last night. Oh, that's what, it just hits it right on. So pick 2 numbers, push 1, give us your numbers, and let us give you a mind shifter. And remember, the way to use a mind shifter, it's a written process. Take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle of the page on the left-hand side of the page, write the mind shifter, and then you use it as a catalyst to do a brain dump. And so once you write that mind shifter, you write everything that comes up in response to it on the right side of the page. Write it again. Write everything that comes up. Write it again. Write it again. And what happens, because the mind works by resonance, instead of an affirmation where people try to pretend something's true that isn't, this tool acts as a catalyst. So the part of you that would go against the affirmation, the part of you that would create the opposite result, is given a chance to surface and be healed. And so that's the idea of a mind shifter. So we define that the mind shifter as a thought about an issue in your life around which you have negative thoughts, and it's the opportunity to surface, process, and release the negative thoughts. And so if you've got two numbers, push 1, give us your numbers, we'll give you a mind shifter. Let's play with this a little bit. Come on, join us. I had someone who texted me 211. So 211, I'm just opening my file on mind shifters as we speak. Give me 1 second here.
I have it if you don't.
Oh, okay, go for it, sweetie, please.
Okay, so 211 is, and this is what you write on the left-hand side, all my actions toward my mother / father / blank are highly pleasing to them and myself. And you can do that on just one of those, like all of my actions toward my mother are highly pleasing to her and myself. Or you can do just your father, or if there was somebody that popped into your mind, whether it's a coworker, a friend, a significant other, or whatever, you can put their name in and do it on them. So all my actions toward my mother, father, blank are highly pleasing to them and myself.
And most often, people know they've got a good mind shifter when the first thing their mind says is BS. Who are you trying to kid? I remember the times when da-da-da was so angry because I did. And when you do that process, one of the things you'll do, like for instance, as we just had shared, is that you get in touch with what the presumptions are that seem so normal to you that you don't even notice them until you go, whoa, golly, I just had that memory crump when I was 5 and I did something that, my mother didn't like and she just wailed on me. Oh, forgotten about that. And when you allow those things to surface and you clean them up, then the impact of those energetic patterns changes. And to illustrate, there's a thing that we talk about that's called the file folder effect. And the file folder effect says that when two files fire together, they become wired together. And so an example of the file folder effect, basically all information is stored in the mind in files, so to speak, that contain all information related to that particular issue. And when you fire two files together, they impact each other. And forevermore, they are linked in your mind. So an example of the file folder effect. There are two words that I know everybody has brain cells for. You all got a file on these two different things, and if you never heard me use this example before, then probably you've never thought of them together at one time. So let's observe what happens with the file folder effect. I'm going to ask you for a moment, please, not to think about a purple alligator. Okay? Don't think about a purple alligator. Now, of course, what happens? Everything to do with purple starts to resonate. The mind works by the law of resonance, energy exchange, and alligators start to fire. Now, if I started the show tomorrow and I started out and said, hey, everybody, don't think about a purple, what would come to everyone's mind who was listening to the show? Alligator. Clearly, they have become associated and impact each other. Of course, purple and alligator are meaningless, but if you've got trauma related to something that fires, it can be something as simple as fires at the same time you're looking at a color. And something painful moves in you, and you're looking at a color, and you wonder why in the future you're uncomfortable around that color, because that pained energy is related in your mind, resonates along with that color. Now, let's say that 30 years from now you tapped into the radio show, and I said, hey, everybody, remember way back there in 2023, and I said, don't think about a purple. What would come to your mind if you were listening to today's show? Very likely nothing. Probably over that long a period of time, because it's not an association that's been reinforced in the mind, there would be nothing that would come to mind. However, at an unconscious level, the associated thoughts would still be firing and would impact the perceptual constructs of your mind. That's why it's important. When you recognize how those things, I happened to talk about the Gehenna on the show the other day, and what happened? Brain cells fired. All of a sudden, an opportunity to clean up something had happened. This young lady just told us she's been circling the earth for 82 years. And this was something that happened, when she was 5 or 6? So in response to this idea that the word hell, is a reflection of, there was a garbage dump outside of Jerusalem. It was called the Gehenna. It was a place where they burned garbage, and actually people who didn't have the money to afford a funeral were also taken there for their bodies to be burned. So the mention of that, and what happens, something from 75 years ago comes up, and a whole healing process begins, not just for this young lady, but for her whole family system. Her mother probably is not still in her body. I don't know, but I suspect. And you know what? This piece of work changed her mother's energy field. Her mother and her father obviously had her as a daughter, so there was an exchange of genetics. You know something? The healing of this issue has changed her father's energy field. And how many brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, and people who are not even related, who came out of the same Italian experience as that, on a subtle energy level, just got an uplift from that piece of work that young lady did. Again, how can we verify that Michael, that's silly? How could things that remote and that unassociated possibly happen? Well, it's the same law I would offer as the law that causes somebody in, Tunisia to have a new idea and start building it and working on it, and somebody in Columbia, South Carolina has the same idea, and somebody in London, England has the same idea, and they all go to the patent office and patent it the same day. That's called energy. That's the impact of energy. I mean, how you think it's coincidence that repeatedly 2, 3, 4 different people have patented something on the same day in totally different parts of the world, people who were never communicating with each other in any direct fashion? You think that's a coincidence? No. We live in an energy universe, and we can tap into whatever energies we choose to, and if we tap into energies that resonate disturbance in us, but we're not aware of the disturbance, we don't really have the opportunity to clean it up. But if we'll be observers of ourselves, you remember how often we've said, become the thinker apart from the thought, the feeler apart from the feeler, the actor apart from the actions. And notice when you do that, if you just do something as simple as watch your language, watch your words. Shakespeare informs, my words fly up, my thoughts remain below. He was talking about the unconscious mind. And if I watch my words, something happens and I shudder and I say, I really hate it when I see something like that happen. Guess what? If I'm observing myself, I just realized that I have an opportunity to heal some hate in me. I have the opportunity to go inside of me and literally remove that energy of hate because I was able to observe what I said. Our words is such a key to what's going on in the mind and present us with opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. So the purpose of this work, the reason we're here, the reason Dr. Tim is here, is to bring forward this level of understanding. You know, I think back over my life and the decades that I've been developing this work. And even though I was not conscious, I can see, you know, I go way back into high school. You know, I accidentally became interested in electronics and ended up studying electronics and physics in school. It was an accident. And it's the root of my work today, 5 decades later. No accident. And I can see how my life has been guided in so many ways to be able to put together this picture that is big enough to comprehend the whole of what's happening and what we are doing to ourselves and others as humanity and how we clean up the anomalies in the system. So MindShifter can be a powerful thing. Ms. Jeanie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up to get a couple of numbers to get a MindShifter? Come on, folks, don't be shy. Push one. Play with us. Okay, well, I guess we'll let that one go. I figured we'd have a bunch of people who'd be jumping on the bandwagon and say, yeah, give me my MindShifter. In any event,
we had a hand.
Choose...
We had a hand going.
Go for it. Okay.
It's Audrey again, 520. You're on the air.
Hi, it's me again. I laid back thinking that possibly someone else would respond. My 2 numbers, since nobody else responded, are 3 and 7.
3-7 is my relationship with blank. Now, you remember when I said how funny it is and intensive when we give out the MindShifters and everybody goes, oh, that's what you were just talking about. Well, guess what? Your MindShifter is what you were just talking about. 3-7. You know, your whole story about guilt and taking children to this suffering place and pain. And so your MindShifter is, my relationship with blank gives me opportunities to heal my guilt. My relationship with blank gives me opportunities to heal my guilt. It was fun on, once a month we do the MindShifters and Still Point Breathing Club. And on Saturday we do the breath work, and Sunday we do a process session. And we always start out with a MindShifter. And there was a new person in the class this past Saturday, and he had, he had just called me and gotten his MindShifter. And then when we started the session, we're talking about and processing what MindShifters each person's got. We had 6 people in the group. There are a few people that had just finished their first year in it and had dropped out. But we had 6 people there. And of the 6 people, now let's see, 1 person was in North Carolina, 1 person was in California, 1 person was in Hawaii. Let's see, where were the others from?
I'm not sure if they had that MindShifter, but Julie
London,
was
England.
saying.
London, England, and 1 person, well, she's actually in California right now. But anyway, there were 6 people, and 3 people had the same MindShifter. And I don't know how many, I don't know what the combination of numbers could possibly be when you've got 3 groups of 13 numbers, how those numbers could go together, but it's got to be in the hundreds of thousands of different combinations possible. And 3 people out of 6 picked the same numbers. We do live in a world of resonance, and thank you for calling in for that, young lady. Does that resonate anything in particular for you at this moment when you think the thought, my relationship with blank gives me opportunities to heal my guilt?
My relationship, I don't know exactly how to do the mind shifters. I just, okay, with blank. So the first thing that comes to my mind is what I put in, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, my relationship with God.
Perfect. So when you think that thought, what's the first thing that comes up? My relationship with God gives me opportunities to heal my guilt.
Oh, Michael, I'm back to a punishing God. But I know that's an illusionary, I know that is illusionary. But that's what...
Well, you know that in your head.
Right.
You know, there are a lot of things we all know in our heads, but it's not what's going on in our heads that are important. If you remember, you go back into the ancient scriptures and they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life, not the head. And so it's the heart, it's the unconscious. That word heart in Aramaic is an idiom for the unconscious. So they're saying, look at what's going on in your unconscious and take care of that. And so and the idea of the mind shifter, when you split a piece of paper and you write that on the left side, then, you know, your first thought on the right side would be, well, the first thing that comes to mind is my relationship with God. Then you write the mind shifter again and what comes up and see where you end up. And what happens is you'll get to drop deeper and deeper and deeper into your own unconscious dynamics. It adds energy to the unconscious part that's been shut down. And when the energy is high enough in that unconscious part, bingo, it pops up to the surface, comes to awareness, and then you get to work through it.
Thank you for the explanation. I'll do my inner work.
Honored and delighted, young lady.
Blessings.
All right. Blessings to you, too. All right, Miss Jeanie. I'm gonna just throw out a couple. We've got 18 different lists. When somebody joins and signs up for the whole year, then they get the full thrust of mind shifters. People who do one session or 3 sessions, we send out 3 lists, and you can go to the website. If you go to whyagain.org, you can download the 3 lists. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, and each one's got 13 mind shifters. You can find that under worksheets. And the titles of the 3 lists are Healing into Aliveness, that's list number 1. Healing Fear and Hostility Through Forgiveness is list number 2. And Creating Abundance is list number 3. Actually, I'm going to go through the titles on each of them just to give you a sense of where we go with it. So the number 4 list, again, each one has 13 mind shifters, is Healing into Eternal Life. Number 5 is Healing Death. Number 6 is Source Esteem Issues. You know, a lot of people talk about self-esteem, but you never heard in the ancient scriptures that you needed to have self-esteem. It's a big deal today, self, self, self. But what they recommended in the ancient scriptures was have source esteem, addresses those issues. Number 7 is Healing Generations. Number 8 is Dealing with Power Person Issues. That's the 8th section of Mind Shifters. The 9th is Living Without Perception and Memory. The 10th section is Partnering in Sweetness, Approval, and Love. Number 11 is Healing the Issues in My Tissues. Number 12 is Healing Blame. 13 is Healing Regulatory Speech. And actually, I've only got 14 here. My computer has the others, but that gives you an idea of where these things go. And I'm just going to just select one from each section. So, Healing into Aliveness. Number 5 is I now attract the ideal relationship and heal through the presence of love, gentleness, and respect. If we go to section 2, I'm going to just do MindShifter 5 from each section. So section 2 on healing fear and hostility through forgiveness. Number 5 is, I have always been held in love and received total approval and affirmation from myself, my parents, and blank. Now, the idea of that, when you'd be writing it, would be, what's your mind say to that? Well, that's not true. I have been approved of, boy, I don't ever remember getting approval when I was blah, blah, blah. You know, and you write and you write and you write, and you allow those unconscious dynamics to come forward, things that most people never even look at. MindShifter number 5 in the section on creating abundance is, God, my mother, father, and I approve of my being a sexual being. Number 4, healing into eternal life, MindShifter 5 is, just and fair behavior with all eye contact or think about is a precursor to eternal life. This is all part of the MindShifters and Still Point Breathing Club. Section 5, healing death, MindShifter number 5, is believing what my carbon-based memory tells me means death. Believing what my carbon-based memory tells me means death is on its way. It's number 6 on source esteem issues. The number 5 MindShifter in that section is honoring. Bringing love into behavior toward parents is as easy as being aware that I live, move, and have my being in an energy field called love. On the section Healing Generations, MindShifter 5 is, it's safe for me to invite the darkest parts of my family history to come into awareness and heal. Section 8, MindShifter number 5 is, whenever someone points out my mistakes, I automatically take a breath and say, thank you. Number 9, the section on living without perception and memory, MindShifter 5 is, I willingly quiet my mind and allow Ruka to move in me. 10, partnering in sweetness, approval, and love, MindShifter 5 is, it is natural for me to affirm the goodness in everyone in my life. Now that one might look like, well, yeah, except for, old Bill over there, he's always been a troublemaker. He is such a disaster. So that would be what is resonated in my mind by that MindShifter and the opportunity to work through whatever it surfaces. Section 11 on healing issues in my tissues, MindShifter 5 is, I naturally forgive any energy I am tempted to hook up to my brain's image of my partner. There's a good one. I naturally forgive any energy I am tempted to hook up to my brain's image of my partner. Remember that file folder effect? So healing the issues in my tissues. Section 12, healing blame, MindShifter 5 is, when someone blames themselves or another, it is natural for me to see through that projection. I'm actually going to edit that one a little bit.
I have the others, and we have 17 sections, not 18.
Okay.
But I have the others
if
you don't have them.
Okay. Actually, yeah, I worked on 18 yesterday and completed it. So, but it's on my computer. So anyway, I'm going to change that one slightly. So when someone blames themselves, myself, or another, it is natural for me to see through that projection. And then number 13 is the section on healing regulatory speech. That's something we cover in Laws of Living. And MindShifter number 5 there is paying attention to and decoding any unconscious use of words heals me. So you get some sort of sense how you can start to turn thinking around. So, sweetie, on section 14, what's section 14 and what's the fifth mind shifter in that list?
It's the title of it of 14 is Being on Purpose, and number 5 says experiencing myself as valuable comes only from my experiencing myself as love and expressing as love.
Nice. By the way, if you notice yourself holding your breath on any of these thoughts, that's a cue that'll be a good mind shifter for you to work with. Let's go to 15.
15 is titled Healing Issues Around People Dying. And number 5 is I am made for eternal life and am willing to embrace and heal every conflicting idea.
Good one.
Number 16 is Living as Love. And number 5 is I am valued and value myself just for being.
Good one. And 17?
Number 17 is Overcoming a Beguiling Ego. And number 5 is I always listen to the guidance that strengthens behaviors based in love, generosity, and right action.
Good one. And I had just worked on and finished number 5 yesterday, so I am heading through to my computer. I don't have those last sections on my phone.
You mean number 18?
Number 18, yes. I'm just heading there now, and I'll give you mind shifter number 5. I think it's actually still open on my computer. Yes, it is. So let's go to section 18. We call this the ever-expanding mind shifter list, and each month we come up with a new list of mind shifters. And so number 18, the next one that'll be coming out, is healing family traumas. And mind shifter number 5 in that is when I have rage resonated by the world, I automatically breathe and forgive my hostility. So section 18 in the ever-expanding mind shifters list, it's part of the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing Club. People who are part of that club get this every month, get a new section every month. Number 5 mind shifter is when I have rage resonated by the world, I automatically breathe and forgive my hostility. The first mind shifter, I'm just inclined to share mind shifter number 1 in that section 18, and that is every family trauma that I have gone through and bought into is now resolvable through the acts of love that come from my being. So that's section 18, mind shifter number 1. Every family trauma that I've gone through and bought into is now resolvable through the acts of love that come from my being. And if any of those resonate for you and, we went by them pretty quickly, you're welcome to push 1 and ask for it again, and we'll read it back to you again if it's one that you're ready to work on. It's a powerful tool. It's a simple tool, and it just acknowledges that the mind operates by resonance, and that if I have a middle C tuning fork and I put it in front of a second middle C tuning fork, they're both sitting still, and I hit one of them on the desk and get it really vibrating, and I put it near the second middle C tuning fork. What happens is, through resonance, the energy of the that's moving out of the first tuning fork causes the second tuning fork to start to vibrate. There's an exchange of energy. That's called resonance. That's the principle behind this tool called a mind shifter. If I say, don't think about the color of your car, what happens? Something about the color of your car moves in you. The law of resonance. Literally, the energy that's emanating from my voice box, literally the air molecules moving that are transferred to the microphone in my phone to the speaker in your phone through the airwaves, causes air molecules to move in the room you're in, and your eardrum responds, and your brain resonates with whatever matches, just like that second tuning fork. You know, if I hit a middle C tuning fork on the desk and put it in front of an A tuning fork, you know what happens? Absolutely nothing. There's no resonance. Events come to us in our lives through the law of resonance, just by holding an energy. You don't have to ever speak it. Nobody ever has to know it's there. You don't ever have to say a word. The fact that the experience and the energy is in you unresolved, it is continuously broadcasting a signal into the world that draws people to you that are, because of that exchange of energy, tend to play that dynamic out. Now, I remember this goes back about 40 years ago, I used to keynote fairly often at a conference called Global Sciences. A gentleman named Dean Stonier. Thank you, Dean. Bless you, Dean. When he passed away, the conference kind of collapsed. He was just a really sweet guy, lived in Denver, and the conference was out there. A year or two, they had it in Florida, too, that I spoke. But one year, I spoke at this conference, and there was another presenter who I didn't know at the time, but became acquainted with, got to know. His name was Marcel Vogel. You've maybe heard the name before. You've perhaps heard of Vogel cut crystals. Marcel was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. Genius mind, a true sweetheart of a man. And, you know, Marcel, here's the kind of mind Marcel had. He worked for IBM. He was the only non-degreed scientist on IBM staff. If you didn't have your PhD, you didn't work for IBM. Marcel didn't have a PhD. Why? Why didn't Marcel have a PhD? And why would you know, IBM, whose policy is you got to have a PhD to work there, hire him? Well, when Marcel was 11, here's the kind of mind he had. He invented chemical light. He was an inventor from childhood. He was 11. He invented chemical light. You know how if you go to a football game and they have these plastic string type things and there's a tube inside of it and you bend it together and the two chemicals mix and it lights up. That was Marcel's invention. He was age 11. Now, he was in his 60s when I met him, but he was 11 when he invented that. And his family didn't have money to patent it, and Marcel, at age 11, patented his invention. What kind of mind did Marcel Vogel have? Well, you and I wouldn't be talking today unless it were for Marcel Vogel. We wouldn't be doing this show. Because what it takes to do this show is hard drives. And guess what? When Marcel Vogel worked for IBM, Marcel invented the magnetic coating that allows our hard drives to work. We wouldn't be this far in the technology world if it weren't for Marcel Vogel. But this year he came to the conference and he said, I'm coming to show you the power of the mind. And he had a camera, pictures taken by a camera called a Delaware camera. It was invented by an Englishman named George Delaware. This camera was different than any camera you've ever seen because on the front end of the camera, there was a tuning mechanism. You know, much like you've got a radio and you tune the radio and the station you tune to is the only thing you hear. Well, where the normal camera, you know, you click the shutter and the aperture opens and the light energy is stored on the photographic plate, Marcel invented George Delaware, Marcel brought it to the conference, George Delaware invented a tuner to filter through what comes into the aperture when you open it. And so if you had it tuned to the right frequency, it would take pictures of things you can't see. And what he showed us were the pictures of the high energy wave that leave the mind when we think a thought. How is it possible that everybody in the world, or pardon me, cancel that so many people registered or engaged in registering a patent on the same day for totally, completely unthought of things? How did that happen? Well, when one person had the thought, that thought was now in the world. And those who were in resonance with it, it doesn't matter whether they were in China or Timbuktu, if they were listening, if they weren't too busy with something else and were listening, they had the opportunity to pick up on that thought and engage in that invention. What Marcel, my offering is that what Marcel discovered is the proof that we are creative beings. All you have to do is hold an energy in you. And let me go back to my physics training. Energy, by nature, by definition, is motion. There's no such thing as energy without motion. So any frequency, any energy pattern that you hold, the same way as, let's say, 900 on your radio dial sets up a frequency pattern in the 900 kilocycle range. You need a tuner in the 900 kilocycle range to receive that radio station. Now, you've got an AM, FM radio, and you say to yourself, well, the FM radio, my FM has a much better fidelity and sound than my AM, so I'm going to listen to 900 on my FM radio. Guess what? You can't do it because there isn't a tuning mechanism for it. Guess what? The only people that show up in your life are people who you have a tuning mechanism for. And they have a tuning mechanism for you. And the choices that individually and collectively you make is what forms the realities you experience. This gives you a clue as to what they're talking about when they say they're discovering there's this thing called the multiverse. Every choice we make is an energy, is a frequency that locks us into an aspect of creation. And every energy that we forgive frees us from the suffering aspects of the creation. And we're just starting to understand it. So if I engage in a thought, I just set up a frequency, a high energy, measurable wave. Marcel could take a picture of it with his camera. When I bring an energy that's based in suffering forward in the presence of love, the presence of love transmutes that energy, changes its form, and it is no longer suffering in me. That's the reason why you want to be about forgiveness. Because every energy that you're willing to access, it's like if you access some form of suffering and you bring it forward in the presence of love, it's like love pushes the mute button on that suffering. You're done with it. It transforms that energy. What you keep in hiding, you keep sending out into the world. By the very presence of that energy moving in you, there is an energy wave moving from you, and guess who's going to show up in your life? Somebody who's in tune with that energy. So this tool is a powerful one because it gives you a chance to look at things that, maybe go back generations and generations. As Audrey just shared with us, something that very powerfully impacted her mom, she's still experiencing, 7 decades plus later. And cleaning up, freeing mom, freeing herself, freeing her children if she's got children, freeing her spouse if she's transferred that energy to him, and opening the energy window for everybody on the planet with that particular form of suffering to also heal it. Maybe somebody in China, the person who maybe would have been, patenting an invention the same day as you were, you clean that piece up in you, and that person in China gets to heal the same issue, and the person in Siberia and the person in Timbuktu. To understand how this energy system works, it's absolutely amazing. And what I've been working on for the last 5+ decades, I guess it's actually more like 6 decades now. I've been saying 5+ for a long time. Tools for understanding how to deal with those energetic impacts. The most brilliant mind on the planet that I know of that understood how this energy system works and gave people the tools was a man named Yeshua. Many who would not do the work of Yeshua took advantage of what he taught and have used it to abuse, control, and cause suffering with people. When churchianity rages, when churchianity rages at a child, they are not teaching the teachings of Yeshua. They've distorted and destroyed the teachings of Yeshua and are destroying the child. It's something we need to wake up from and understand and bring integrity back to. And let's say hello to our caller. We've got about 5 minutes. Let's go for it.
It's Jamuna, 808. You're on the air.
Hi. Aloha.
Welcome, young lady. How are you?
I'm me right now. A lot coming up, yeah, because that's just the way it is. But, when you talk about, like, bringing in the presence of love to transmute it, my low mind, the ego mind, just can't get past how to do that. How does one do that exactly?
Okay.
With the breath, I understand. But, like...
Here it is.
Could you explain more the process? Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I can go back to about 35, 36 years ago. We were doing an intensive at Heartland. We had about 50 people at our center. And there was one person who had some very serious physical suffering going on. And that person went in and did some deep work. And literally right there on the spot with everybody watching, this person moved out of that severe physical suffering like that fast. Just bingo, it was gone. And it was like clear to everybody. Something miraculous had just happened. And, with my questioning mind, my background is in electronics with a side study in physics, and back in the technical world, if you're building or repairing or developing a piece of electronic equipment, it doesn't matter what your philosophy is, it's got to work when it comes off the other end of the bench. So the question for me in that killer intensive, as everybody watched this transformation take place, and this was the only person that made that shift, the question was, well, wait a minute, what just happened? There are 50 people in the room. Why didn't everybody get that kind of transformation? What happened here? What's behind this thing called healing? How does this happen? And what I was shown was that for healing to happen, two things have to occur. One, love must be conscious, active, and present. And when I'm talking about love, I'm not talking about our culture's mamby-pamby, definition of love as sexual athletics or self-sacrifice or anything like that. I'm talking about a human life, an actual present human being called love has to be there, awake and functional in the space. That's the first condition that has to be met. The second condition is the veil of the temple. The barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind needs to open. And something that's in hiding in the unconscious has to come forward in the presence of that act of love. When those two things meet, there is a transmutation of the lower energy, and that's where healing occurs. That's what I was shown that day. That's what I had explained to me that day. Okay. So since then, the pursuit has been, so how do we get the veil to open? Well, we know the veil is built by holding the breath. So one of the keys is you got to keep the breath open. And that's where the still point breathing process comes in. That's why we have that still point breathing club. And then the other practice is bringing love conscious, active, and present. And and doing the work of forgiveness to remove everything in oneself that would inhibit them functioning as the presence of love. And thus, this whole body of work is about achieving that result. And the show's about to cut us off, Jamuna. And so if that's not a complete enough explanation, how about planning to call in on Monday and let's start with this conversation and we'll get more deeply into it.
That sounds good.
But that's
good,
the short
Dr.
form
Ryce.
of it.
Okay, I love it because I know if I have a question, someone else does.
All right, that's the beauty of community, is sometimes when I haven't thought of the question, you do, and that's what opens the space. So it is awesome to be part of this community.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a blessed one. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world.